Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is January the 13th, 2026. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Tuesday to ya. Hopefully the day treated you well. Hopefully things are feeling very cheerio for you. As for me, it was a good day. So far, beat for beat, this week is marching and moving along much better. Maybe I'm in the groove. Groove's in the house. I don't know, but it was a good day. Sans the beginning, I will say I had a rough night sleeping. I went to bed at the time I wanted to, but like I want to say 4 hours into sleeping, I just wake up and I couldn't figure out why. My guess is my ankle is just still bothering me. And like I just had a steady ankle pain that was just not going away, and I was just kind of rolling around in bed. So I finally will myself up, have some Advil, kind of sit around for a bit, try to lay back down. I think I get like another hour. So I kind of woke up like, oof, I'm feeling rough. I'm not feeling too good, but we got to make it to work. And truly my goal is to not call off until maybe February, March. Knock on some wood. Just, I really want to try to get up some PTO. So I'm really trying to make it work. I'm also trying not to be late. I feel like it's a bad impression in my new department. You know what I mean? So, really trying to get after it. So we get to work, get there on time. Love that for me. Made it happen. Work was solid. We start off doing cardboard buggies. I get called up to do some putbacks. I do about an hour of that. And, spend most of my day back downstairs crushing cardboard, which is what I want to do. At one point, I cut down some boxes. So essentially, what I'm saying is I'm doing the weave. I'm going in, I'm going out. I'm on this floor, I'm on that floor, I'm back on the first floor, crushing cardboard. Like, I think that is more or less just how my days are gonna go now. So pretty much, instead of me sitting around waxing poetic with the boys in maintenance, I'm just gonna be out in the field. I don't know. It sucks ass. I hate it. But it is what it is. Changes. But yeah, no. Overall, the day felt good. So we'll take that. Post work, we got to the gym. Gym was, of course, it was jam packed in that motherfucker. I did not get on the Smith machine, so that's an L. But I did get on an incline bench, so that's a W. I did the security set thing where I do I do a full, slew of things, and then I drop weight, do another same set. That went well. I got pretty much, I think actually I got all my filler in. I had to kind of do it in between my cardio a little bit, but I got my core in, got the filler workout in. So overall, it was a good workout. Really hoping tomorrow we get on some Smith machine. I need to get under some weight, baby, some real weight. But no big deal. Let's see. Post the gym, we get home, we have a stretch, have a snack, and I get into some research. I don't know. I'm praying. I'm hoping. My fingers are crossed that this episode goes well. Sometimes I don't hit the weave when it comes to the research. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's where, maybe that's the bad day part. I don't know. I just couldn't find my flow state. And there's a lot to talk about, a lot of serious stuff, as always, when it comes to the podcast. But yeah, we're going to do our best to get into it. So, bear with me. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into some news. Oh, what's some food corner stuff that I haven't mentioned, actually? I've been eating a lot of gizzard. Yes, when I was at the store on Sunday, I noticed that they packaged the chicken in such a way that they were acting like they were giving me a deal, but it looked like there was less chicken. And I was like, I don't know if I'm being bamboozled here. It feels like I am. And I couldn't like get any other substitute outside of like chicken breast, which I really didn't want. It was going to be more money, and, so I was faced with a quandary, and I'm looking at all the chicken options, and I see chicken gizzard. And now this isn't my first time having it. I think it's a big reason why I haven't mentioned it until now, in terms of because I've been eating it throughout the week, but or at least in Sunday. But I was like, wow, this is really cheap. It was like $2.19 as opposed to what the $8 I've usually been paying, or that's an average for chicken. So I was like, damn, and you get so much. And so I was like, all right, I'll actually get both. I'll get these, this measly looking, chicken tenderloins, and then I'll get this chicken gizzard, and I'll go half and half on both. So essentially I'm kind of giving myself like a little bit of extra protein here, which is kind of nice, kind of been good. But honestly though, I do love gizzard. I still maintain that like frying that shit up, putting that some sauce. Oh my God. Chef's kiss. Like, especially with just a nice like deep fry, that chewiness turns into something even better. Ugh, so good. So yummy. But didn't do it that way. We threw all the chicken in an air fryer, and I gotta say, still hitting, still worth it. Still, it has that chew for sure, but still very yummy, very tasty meat, very good chicken in my opinion, if I do say so myself. So yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't a bad purchase. So yeah, I felt the need to mention that on the pod. A little bit of food corner talk before we get into some serious shit. Oh, and also I gotta say that chili oil that I got from my friend, so good. I'm like trying to refrain myself to use it just once a week. It's that good. It's cracked out. It's so yummy. Ugh. All right. I'm putting it off. Our first story comes from USA Today. Will trans athlete bans get Supreme Court approval? Arguments recap. Now, I want to say we are not reading this full article. It is very long, and if I were to do it the way that I do it, we would probably spend like over an hour just talking about this shit, just with the ins and outs of it, all the takes, all the stances, all that shit. So that's not what we're doing. You're going to get this shit Isaiah's way. You're pretty much getting the whole episode like that, where I'm trying not to do any read-alongs, but we'll see. Bear with me. The Supreme Court appeared sympathetic on January 13th to state bans on transgender girls competing on female sports teams, one of the nation's most high-profile and divisive cultural and political issues. Chief Justice John Roberts, whose vote is likely to be key to the outcome, expressed skepticism about the challenges brought by transgender students to bans in Idaho and West Virginia during Tuesday's oral arguments. Now, just getting the two people involved in both, I believe it's Lindsay Hecox from the Idaho case. She was trying to run for track and field for Boise State. And through all of this pushback, all of this, like this whole legal process, she wasn't able to do it. Like she wasn't able to actually, try out for the team, play or, run track or whatever. And I think has since lost complete interest in doing so, which I completely understand. Unfortunately, it's very sad. And on her end, she kind of says like, I really don't have a stake in the case anymore. I'm kind of legally mute, but this is still being processed. And then on the West Virginia end, which is the story I believe I had heard on Start Here, which they're going to do a lot better job than I do in terms of breaking the shit down. But it is Becky Pepper Jackson, I believe 15, Virginia high school, does discus or shot put, has been on, I believe, puberty blockers, some kind of hormone therapy since they were very young. And, more or less played, in the community, done sports, with community. So people know her. She's been on teams, been playing. And, essentially now this has come up and it is becoming a whole railroad saying, hey, you can't be on this team. It's disruptive, While the court's 3 liberal justices focused on the fact that some transgender students may not have an athletic advantage after undergoing hormone treatments, Roberts said allowing challenges to state law from a fairly small group of people could have broader implications. Which I feel like this is something that they get to apply in one direction only, like for this. But it's like the other way, it's like, no, we can't do that. Anyway, if we adopted that, that would have to apply across board and not simply to the area of athletics, Roberts said, near the end of debate on the first case, a challenge to Idaho's ban. There are only 3 justices on the high court appointed by Democrats. Yeah, this shit we already know. So yeah, then they go into the whole, arguments of it. It's a pretty long article. Really summing it up though, right there, it seems like with Roberts saying, hey, I'm opposed to this shit, I'm going to let the states keep, uphold these bans, then, that's probably where the ruling is going to come, I believe, come July, which, to me is unfortunate. I think it's very sad. And it's also always sad that there's always like this galvanizing like group of people who are always happy about this, where like they're people who are, oh yeah, no, we compete and we play and we feel like this is a disadvantage to us and we're actually scared or endangered. And then you have parents who are like, yeah, I think that we're confusing the kids. Da, 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 da. It's like you have so many of these weird takes, and I'm just always like very shocked by that. And then of course you just have the staple of like, well, biologically, da 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 da, and then of course the religious, well, God made you this way. And it's like, brother, in all of these situations, like, fuck the God shit. I don't care about the religious shit. But like, if we're talking about science, we are living in amazing, marvelous times. Like, you actually can go through processes to be the person you want to be, just like any kind of hair transplant or whatever the fuck, any kind of, gene therapy that you want to use to get stronger or look better or whatever. Apparently that's fine. But if you do it in terms of your gender or anything like that, it becomes a whole other issue, I guess. And now we're talking about the kids. So yeah. To me, every time this comes up, it's very unfortunate because, like I said, in the situation with Becky Pepper, I don't know why I keep getting her name wrong, my bad. Becky Pepper Jackson, you're losing out on an opportunity to, do the thing you really enjoy doing. And I think that's sad. And for what? So that, people can be, quote unquote, more comfortable, less confused, I don't know, feel safer. Like, we're talking about sports and this competitive advantage we keep fucking talking about. I never see it. I'm sorry. I just really don't. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on though to our next story. Let's see, from Politico. Excuse me. No shortage of wealth. Mamdani, other Democrats chide NYC hospital executives over nurses' strike. Ooh, 1 second. My heat is on, and I should have turned it off. Let's see. All right, let's get into this episode, or this article. Politicians are piling on criticism of New York City hospitals as executives scramble to weather a historic nurses' strike. Nearly 15,000 nurses walked out Monday at some of the city's largest private hospitals, including Montefiore Medical Center and multiple New York Presbyterian and Mount Sinai Health Systems locations after months of stalled negotiations over pay raises, health insurance coverage, and understaffing penalties. The New York State Nurses Association and a host of influential political allies, including Mayor Zohran Mamdani, are laying the blame at hospital executives' feet. As the nurses lambast some of the city's most well-off hospitals for crying poverty, the strike is quickly becoming a proxy war for broader discontent over the U.S. healthcare system. Mamdani, who catapulted into City Hall on a platform of making New York City more affordable, said the strike raises fundamental questions about who benefits from the country's complicated, costly, and porous healthcare system. There's no shortage of wealth in the healthcare industry, especially so at the three privately operated hospital groups at which nurses are striking. Mamdani said Monday at the picket line outside New York Presbyterian's Upper Manhattan Hospital campus. But for too many of the 15,000 NYSNA nurses who are on strike, they are not able to make ends meet. So I'm happy to see Mamdani really out on the line, really defending the nurses, and also not just defending the nurses, but really pointing the finger at like hospital executives saying, hey, you guys are private healthcare. Like, you guys have the money. You just do, and you're choosing to say, we can't do it. And in this situation, how they are crying poverty, they're saying, well, Trump's big, beautiful bill is really making this impossible. We can only really kind of meet you at, they can only afford increases of about $4,500 annually to nurses' total compensation, which includes health benefits. And it's like, we think you can dig deeper. And I agree. You should find a way. Because at the end of the day, you're private healthcare. You do stand to make a fucking profit. And if you don't, then fine. You got to eat your lunch sometimes. You got to take the fucking haircut. Like, I don't know what to fucking tell you. Also, I will say, they did find a way and means to muster up $100 million to prepare for the strike, essentially hiring temporary nurses. Let's see here. I'll just go ahead and read it. The three healthcare systems have already spent over $100 million to prepare for a strike by hiring temporary nurses, according to the Greater New York Hospital Association. A Mount Sinai spokesperson said the health system has so far brought in 1,400 of them. In a report this week to bondholders, New York Presbyterian reported spending $60 million on preparations. And it's like, you're doing all of that, but you can't, once again, meet at the table with the nurses that you do have on staff and actually, work with them and, find something that's like, hey, common ground. We can work with this. Let's get you a number. Let's get you the benefits and things that you need. And we can just keep this shit running hunky dory. And it's like, no, we don't really want to do that. It's just, for them, it's easier to play hardball. Now that they're going to say it like that. And I also don't like, too, that I feel like in media and post, they're kind of going out of their way to say, hey, they're leaving like patients on the line here, essentially. Like, they're the ones who are going to potentially suffer, even though, hey, we got everything covered. There's not going to be any like misses or anything like that. But like, they're the ones risking it. When it's like, no, dude, you're risking your nurses. You're risking the patients. They already have to go through this shit day in, day out. And essentially you're saying, yeah, just keep dealing with it. That's all we can do. We just gotta keep gritting it out. It's like, no, dude. I think once again, especially in a post-pandemic world, when we know it doesn't even have to take a seasonal change for this shit, for the hospitals and shit to be packed. No, like there shouldn't be a negotiation. Like, you should be ready and willing to work with these nurses to get them what they need. Because it's what they need. We're talking about making the ends meet so that you can live a normal life. Make sure all your bills and fucking shit are paid, that your kids and your family and everything is sorted, and then you can come back and do your job and take care of people. Because I think it's what they want to do, right? You know what I'm saying? Also, I think something that was definitely nice to hear, didn't surprise me, but they're like, yeah, like, we completely understand, people who need to go into a hospital, like, yeah, it's private, like, but you have an appointment, at the end of the day, you got to go do your appointment. Like, we understand that. We're not booing you. Like, at least that's what I've been hearing and stuff from the line. So, it is good to hear that, obviously. I do think sometimes that you can just hear any kind of union and it can be portrayed as some like evil, selfish thing by the people. Like, oh, they just want money. They're just thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about, the other people affected, especially when we're talking about like any kind of public works and things like that, when oftentimes that's not the case. So, yeah, I don't know. This felt very important to talk about. I didn't get to talk about it yesterday. I had other stories that I wound up hitting. So I was like, hey, let's make sure to hit it on, I believe this is day 2. But yeah, I'm rooting for the nurses. As always, I'm pushing for the unions. I'm clapping it up for them. And hopefully that they get to hear a number that works for them, that they can, live with. But yeah, let's move on to our next story. got a bit of a lawsuit, and it is Trump related, ICE related, Minnesota related. But yes, from CNN, Minnesota, Twin Cities sue Trump administration over unprecedented immigration operations. The state of Minnesota and the Twin Cities are suing the Trump administration, arguing the unprecedented federal immigration operation in the state is a federal invasion and seek a court order halting the crackdown, according to a lawsuit filed Monday. This has to stop. It just has to stop. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said at a Monday news conference announcing the lawsuit. The suit was filed shortly after Illinois and the city of Chicago also sued the Trump administration, alleging the Department of Homeland Security has terrorized residents in organized bombardment. Both suits argue the federal government is violating the 10th Amendment. And I'm going to go ahead and just read the 10th Amendment here. The 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, I'm not reading it verbatim, but the 10th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution establishes the principle of federalism, stating that any powers not specifically given to the federal government by the Constitution, nor withheld from the states, are reserved for those states or the people. It serves as a limit on federal power, ensuring that the national government only has the powers enumerated in the Constitution, while all other powers belong to the state or individuals. Now, I'm honestly hoping that this pans out for Minnesota and Illinois. You never know with these fucking things, and they can go all the way up to the Supreme Court. I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I mean, these are the means that you are trying to use legally to slow down, stop the Trump administration for pushing their agenda the way that they are right now. This whole Operation Metro Surge or whatever the fuck. Because they really are about it. It is crazy that they literally killed a person and they're like, yeah, instead of leaving, we're going to like add like 1,000 more people to this situation. We're going to make it more chaotic. We're going to make it more kinetic. We're going to keep coming down on you guys. Because we are in the right and you are in the wrong and we are inevitable and you are not. Like, I don't know, man. It is a wild state of affairs that we keep finding ourselves into. But, you know, I guess this is the means of how, you know, these states are trying to, you know, push back against Trump, against the administration. And, you know, I guess something is better than nothing, right? Yeah, so, yeah, there's that. I'll keep you guys posted on that. I really don't want to get into the details, especially in this situation, because they kind of are just doing a bit of a recap. They talk about the Renee Good situation and things of that nature. Which, you know, we could do even more discourse on that. There have been like, oh, there's more angles, more, but y'all know how I feel about this shit. My stance, my take on that has not changed. It's still fuck ICE. It's so fucking wild to, especially when I heard more details and it's like, wait. So you're telling me he had a phone in one hand, gun in the other. He's supposed to be doing his whole fucking job here. And then you got so scared. Like, oh, okay, man. And once again, no charges for this guy. Nothing. Awesome. That is just how you do your job, I guess. That is what you were supposed to do. Anyway, like I said, I really don't want to dwell on it. At least for right now. I know we're gonna be coming back to that shit one way or another. But from Variety. Paramount Skydance sues Warner Brothers Discovery, seeking financial details of Netflix deal. Paramount Skydance's hostile takeover effort of Warner Brothers Discovery has taken a new legal turn. David Ellison's Paramount Skydance on Monday sued Warner Brothers Discovery, seeking to force WBD to disclose financial details of its $83 million deal with Netflix. Paramount also officially announced plans to launch a proxy fight with WBD. The company said it will nominate a slate of directors who, in accordance with their fiduciary duties, will exercise WBD's right under the Netflix agreement to engage on Paramount's offer and enter into a transaction with Paramount. The litigation comes after the board of Warner Brothers Discovery rejected Paramount's latest $30 a share all-cash bid for WBD in its entirety. the eighth offer put forward by Ellison with backers, including his wealthy father, Larry Ellison. So another lawsuit. But I think that this definitely feels it's giving petty. We are officially in the like losers queue. I feel like if we are what is it, Paramount here, like you are not getting what you want out of this. Because at the end of the day, you make the hostile takeover bid. And it seemed like a good idea, or it seemed like a good number on paper, at least enticing, right? But from what I was gathering, a lot of times when you try to do a hostile takeover, it just doesn't work. And in this situation, I think that there was just some questions involved. And they're like, yeah, we're not really feeling it. Like, we don't really trust that maybe you can even come up with it. And we like the deal that we signed with Netflix. We're good. And I think, once again, Paramount goes, no, we insist. We insist that we look over this shit, that you look over this shit, that we get people involved so everyone can kind of know the details of all of this. Because we were supposed to be the ones making the deal. Like, it is giving Left at the Altar. It's giving Jilted Lover. Just take all that money and just dry your tears. That's what I would do. You've got plenty of investments, plenty of loins in the fire. I don't know, man. This seems cooked, but I get it. I understand that this is a major deal. It's a paradigm shift either way, whether Paramount gets it, whether Netflix gets it, in terms of like, we're splitting up, Warner Brothers Discovery and, all that shit, what's going to happen to the movies? But yeah, an interesting development all the same. Of course, we'll be driving around the studio, coming back to this, the next time I get another update. But yeah, we have one more story that I wanted to cover. I know we've kind of been zigging and zagging. We're actually going back to Portland, Oregon, talking about Border Patrol. But yeah, let's go ahead and take our last break, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. I'm also sorry if I sound a bit distracted. I spent all day being very cold, and now, I'm running the heat, and since I've closed the door in my room, I'm just way too hot now, and I'm very uncomfortable, and I'm bothered by that. But the show must go on, okay? We got to finish as strong as we can, all right? No edits, I know. It's like, well, why not just fix that in post? Nah, that's just not how we do. All right. Our last story comes from CNN. Man shot by Border Patrol in Portland, Oregon is charged with aggravated assault on federal officer for alleged car attack. Look, I know that when we get into the details, people can be like, it's actually not surprising, but this is so fucking wild to me that, like, you got shot. I believe he got shot in the arm. The person he was driving with, the woman, she got shot in the chest, by the way. Nothing's going to happen to those guys, it seems. They were just doing their jobs. And these guys are the ones that are like, yeah, no, you weaponized your vehicle. And, not to mention you guys were Tren de Agua. And, we're trying to lock you up. So let's get into it. Let's get into these details a little bit. A Border Patrol agent shot 2 people in Portland, Oregon during a traffic stop after authorities said they were associated with a Venezuelan gang. Another incident in a string of confrontations with federal authorities that have left Americans frustrated with immigration enforcement during the Trump administration. The agent shot the man and woman Thursday in their car in what the Department of Homeland Security said was self-defense after the driver tried to weaponize the vehicle. That was, what was it? Before they tried to trap this guy while he's in the vehicle. At a fucking healthcare facility. So I love that. That was a safe place that they determined, like, yeah, we're gonna make our move here on this dangerous man, and woman. Which, once again, that just seems not safe in general for the community or them or the people involved. Like, okay, all right though. The agent shot the man and woman Thursday in their car in what the... Did I read that? In self-defense, yeah. Luis David Nino Moncada has been charged with aggravated assault of a federal officer with a deadly or dangerous weapon, the Department of Justice said Monday, alleging he put Border Patrol agents in harm's way. During the traffic stop, prosecutors say Nino Moncada repeatedly reversed and accelerated his car, striking the empty Border Patrol vehicle behind him multiple times. Nino Moncada, who is also charged with depredation, I think it's depredation, of federal property in excess of $1,000, appeared in federal court Monday afternoon for an initial appearance. A judge ordered him to remain in detention and scheduled a preliminary hearing and detention hearing for Wednesday, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Oregon said in a statement. The federal public defender for the District of Oregon, which represents Nino Moncada, declined to comment on his case. The incident happened one day after 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good was fatally shot by an Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent in Minneapolis, which we just kind of previously touched on. Let's see, where do we want to get into? What authorities said happened. Let's hear their story. At 2:19 p.m. local time, Border Patrol agents conducted a targeted vehicle stop with 2 Venezuelan migrants connected to the Tren de Agua gang. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said Thursday. When the agents identified themselves to the car's occupants, the driver weaponized his vehicle and attempted to run over the law enforcement agents, McLaughlin said. One agent, fearing for his life and safety, fired a defensive shot, and the driver drove off with the passenger, she said. The affidavit released Monday said Nino Moncada was stopped in a red truck in the parking lot of a healthcare facility. The agents said they got out of their unmarked vehicles and identified themselves as law enforcement in Spanish when they approached the truck. Several agents gave commands for Nino Moncada and the other occupant to get out of the car. When he placed the target vehicle in reverse, colliding with an unoccupied Border Patrol vehicle with enough speed and force to cause significant damage. So I'm imagining that's where the damage, in excess of $1,000 comes into play, right? He then put the target vehicle in drive, moving forward, and continued the forward reverse maneuver multiple times, continuously striking the Border Patrol vehicle, the affidavit said. But really, at no point here are we saying, okay, he drove it into people. I'm not saying that clearly this isn't a scary situation. But once again, why did you guys choose this method? Why is this like a tried and true method for ICE or border agents, whatever, to be like, hey, we are going to throw ourselves in a harm's way instead of, once again, because I've talked about this when it comes to law enforcement, you are playing this fucking superhero sheriff role where you are throwing yourself into a situation and now it is becoming instantly hostile, and now you have the green light, I guess, because of your training to do hostile action, which is killing a person, just executing them. That is what these people are doing in almost every single one of these situations, at least the ones that are making the big headlines, right? You are throwing yourself at a person saying, okay, do this, do that, especially too when we're talking about multiple fucking commands and things of that nature. I do want to keep reading here, though. One agent noted Nino Moncada raised his hands after shots were fired, but then drove away, according to the affidavit. Several of the agents who were close to the car during the ramming said they were fearful of their safety as Nino Moncada moved the car back and forth, the affidavit says. The affidavit doesn't include an interview from the agent who shot the car. Border Patrol agents did not follow the vehicle. Cool. But we do know what happened there. They drove away, get to a stopping point. They're freaking out. They're then forced with the situation of who do we call? They call the cops. The cops then come to the situation and once again, treat them like human beings and don't shoot at them and shit. So there's that. And then, they're, I guess, arrested, apprehended, whatever the fuck. But yeah, let's see here. And this is my favorite part. There's no body camera footage from the 6 Border Patrol agents involved, and investigators have been unsuccessful at procuring any surveillance footage from nearby businesses, prosecutors say. So this is the exact opposite from the Minneapolis situation, where like you had various like angles, multiple people shooting footage. You have none here. And you only have ICE's word to go off of. And I'm sorry. There's no way in fucking hell you're going to get me to say, oh, I totally believe these motherfucking guys because they're the law. Fuck that. No, dude. These motherfuckers have lied time and time again. And I have no doubt that they will continue to. Just like our fucking president. So no, I don't. I'm sorry. Just taking their word for it? Just take it at face value? No, I'm just not. I just can't. Not me personally. That's a you thing if you want to do that. No, I think you have to have a lot of scrutiny. You have to take what they're saying with a grain of salt. And I need to see some fucking evidence on the table. All I know is you guys shot 2 people and are just trying to be like, yeah, that's fine. Actually, these guys are the bad guys. We were potentially the victims. Actually, we were the victims. I was so scared. I was so scared of that car, you know? And then, like, I could have been in that car that they rammed, like, multiple times. Forward, backwards, forward, backwards. Okay, dude. Let's see. I do want to get into, the 2 people. DHS identified the driver and passenger Friday as Nino Moncada and Yorlins Betsabeth Zambrano Contreras, 2 Venezuelan migrants who authorities say entered the country illegally in the past several years. Nino Moncada is a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela and suspected Tren de Agua gang member. Suspected. And that's from the DHS. The passenger, Yorlins, is a criminal illegal alien from Venezuela and is associated with Tren de Agua. So essentially the same thing. Since illegally entering, Contreras played an active role in Tren de Agua in a Tren de Agua prostitution ring and was involved with a prior shooting in Portland. Okay. I mean, maybe they'll incite their sources on that and, show some proof of evidence there. And we can, go through that later. But until then, like, you just shot 2 people as far as I'm fucking concerned. And even if this is exactly as you say it was, why would you conduct the targeted fucking stop like that? To me, that's just kind of wild. Like, you couldn't find a better place. You have all this information. You have pretty much all this foresight. You have all this surveillance on this person. And like, yeah, no, this is the best time. It's now or never. We do it right here next to this healthcare facility in this parking lot. Let's hop out our car and do that while they're still in their car. Once again, what situation do you want out of that other than a chaotic altercation? I'm sorry. Because this keeps happening, and it's going to keep happening because apparently ICE isn't going to change how they're going to do this shit, and they're not going to back down. They're not going to go anywhere, unfortunately. They're just going to keep ramping this shit up. So yeah, I know this just really sucks to kind of close out on. It's a bit of a bummer, but man, I don't know, man. It just is what it is. Like I said, a couple of lawsuits to really go through there, and you have someone facing a trial, but it's not the shooter. It's not the shooter in this situation. So yeah, that is unfortunately, sadly, where we're gonna close it out. But I do appreciate you listening. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/IsaiahNews. Become a newsie today. Free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Feel free to follow me or the podcast on any of the socials. Subscribe to the YouTube, follow on TikTok, follow on Spotify, follow on Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen. Leave a like, leave a cool comment. Sharing is caring. 5 stars on Spotify, 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Always appreciated. But if you don't do that, that's okay. I really just appreciate you letting me sweat it out with you and yap about some news, yap about my day. That's always a blessing. I do appreciate that so much. So yes, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye. Mwah.